The receipt was crumpled deep inside my husband's jacket pocket. At first, I almost threw it away. But then I saw the date. 2:13 a.m. And the location? A luxury hotel downtown. My stomach dropped instantly. Because my husband had told me he was working night shifts. And in that exact moment, I realized I might not know my husband at all anymore. My name is Natalie. And until 6 months ago, I thought my marriage was solid. Not perfect. But stable. Comfortable. The kind of relationship built on routines and quiet love. My husband Ethan worked as a logistics supervisor at a shipping company. Long hours. Stressful schedules. Constant phone calls. But he always came home eventually. Always kissed my forehead before bed. Always asked about my day. Small things. The kind that make you feel safe. We've been married for 8 years. No kids yet. Not because we didn't want them. Life just kept getting in the way. Bills. Work. Timing. Still, I genuinely believed we were happy. Which is probably why the changes hit me so hard. Because at first, they seemed so small. It started with the night shifts. And honestly, that's when I should have trusted my instincts. One evening Ethan came home looking exhausted. He loosened his tie and sighed heavily. "They're changing schedules at work," he muttered. "What kind of changes?" "Night shifts. Temporary." I frowned immediately. "Since when does your department even do night shifts?" "They're short-staffed." Simple answer. Too simple. But I ignored the uneasy feeling in my chest. Because when you love someone, you don't want to believe they're lying to you. At first, the schedule didn't seem suspicious. He'd leave around 8 p.m. Come home around 5 in the morning. Tired. Quiet. But slowly, little things stopped making sense. He started guarding his phone constantly. Taking it into the bathroom. Flipping it face down whenever messages appeared. And Ethan had never done that before. Not once. Then there was the smell. Not perfume exactly. Something softer. Sweet. Feminine. The kind of scent that lingers in elevators after someone walks out. When I asked about it casually, he laughed nervously. "You're imagining things." Maybe I wanted to believe him. So I did. Until the night I woke up at 3 a.m. and realized Ethan had forgotten something very important. His wedding ring. I found the ring sitting beside the bathroom sink. Cold. Carelessly abandoned. My chest tightened immediately. Ethan never removed his wedding ring. Not for work. Not for showers. Not for anything. I picked it up slowly. And suddenly, all the little warning signs started connecting inside my head. The late nights. The secretive phone behavior. The emotional distance. I barely slept after that. Every worst-case scenario kept replaying in my mind. Another woman. A secret affair. A double life. The scary part? Once suspicion enters a marriage, everything starts looking guilty. The next morning, Ethan acted completely normal. Too normal. "How was your shift?" I asked carefully. "Brutal," he sighed while pouring coffee. I placed the wedding ring on the table silently. For half a second, his entire face froze. Then he forced a laugh. "Oh wow. Must have forgotten it." Forgotten it. Like it meant nothing. But something about his reaction felt rehearsed. Like he'd already practiced excuses in his head. And 3 days later, I found the receipt. The one that changed everything. Ethan had fallen asleep on the couch after work. I was folding laundry when his jacket slipped off the chair. A small paper fell from the pocket. I almost ignored it. Almost. But then I saw the hotel logo. Grand Crescent Hotel. One of the most expensive hotels in the city. I unfolded the receipt slowly. Room service. Wine. 2 dinners. Time, 2:13 a.m. My hands started shaking. Because Ethan was supposed to be at work. Not inside a luxury hotel. At 2 in the morning. I stared at the receipt for nearly 10 minutes. Trying to come up with another explanation. A business meeting. A client event. Anything. But deep down, I already knew what this looked like. And honestly, that pain is impossible to describe. The moment your heart starts preparing for betrayal before your brain fully accepts it. Then I noticed something else on the receipt. A handwritten note. Thank you for tonight. I locked myself in the bathroom and cried silently. Not dramatic sobbing. Just quiet tears rolling down while my entire chest hurt. Because suddenly, every memory felt fake. Every kiss. Every I love you. Every future plan. I kept staring at myself in the mirror thinking. Was I stupid? How long had this been happening? Did everyone know except me? The hardest part about suspected cheating is the humiliation. You start imagining people laughing behind your back. Feeling sorry for you. Seeing you as the clueless wife. And honestly, that feeling almost hurts more than the betrayal itself. But instead of confronting Ethan immediately, I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed him. And what I saw that night completely shattered me. But not for the reason I expected. The next evening, Ethan kissed my forehead and left for his night shift. I waited 10 minutes before getting in my car. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped my keys. Part of me prayed I'd lose him in traffic. Because once you discover the truth, you can never unknow it. I followed him across downtown quietly. And my stomach dropped when his car pulled into the Grand Crescent Hotel parking lot. The same hotel from the receipt. I felt physically sick. This was real. Actually real. I parked far away and watched him enter the building. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I remember thinking, this is the moment my marriage dies. 20 minutes later, I finally forced myself inside. The hotel lobby was beautiful. Soft piano music. Gold lights. Rich people laughing quietly. Meanwhile, I felt like I was about to collapse. I approached the elevator area slowly. And then, I saw Ethan standing beside another woman. But then something happened that made my entire brain stop working. The woman hugged him. And started crying. I froze behind a pillar trying to hear them. The woman looked exhausted. Older than me. Maybe late 40s. Ethan held her shoulders gently. It's going to be okay, he whispered. She shook her head crying. No, it isn't. I stared in complete confusion. This didn't feel romantic. It felt heavy. Serious. Then Ethan handed her a folder. And that's when I saw it. Medical documents. Hospital paperwork. Suddenly, my certainty started cracking. What was happening? I watched them sit together quietly for almost an hour. No flirting. No kissing. No secret touching. Just conversation. Tears. Support. And somehow, that confused me even more. Then I heard the woman say a name that changed everything. My mother's name. I stopped breathing. What do you mean Natalie's mother doesn't know yet? The woman whispered. Ethan rubbed his face tiredly. She can't find out until the surgery is approved. Surgery? What surgery? My legs felt weak. Then the woman spoke again. If the donor doesn't work. Ethan interrupted quietly. She'll survive. But his voice cracked when he said it. And suddenly, terror replaced suspicion. Because I realized this wasn't an affair. This was something much worse. I left the hotel in a complete panic. The drive home felt unreal. My mind raced through possibilities. Hospital. Donor. My mother. None of it made sense. When Ethan finally came home that morning, I confronted him immediately. What surgery? His entire body froze. And for the first time in weeks, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. How much did you hear? Enough. Silence filled the kitchen. Then slowly, Ethan sat down and told me the truth. And honestly, I wished I'd never found that receipt at all. 3 months earlier, my mother had been diagnosed with kidney failure. Severe. Life-threatening. Ethan found out accidentally after overhearing a phone call between my aunt and my mother. And apparently, my mother begged him not to tell me immediately. Because I was already overwhelmed with work stress and anxiety. I felt sick hearing this. You lied to me for months? I was trying to protect you. By disappearing every night? He nodded painfully. The woman at the hotel is a transplant coordinator. I stared at him silently. Then came the sentence that destroyed me. I was getting tested to be your mother's donor. My knees almost gave out. What? I matched. I burst into tears instantly. Not soft crying. Full emotional collapse. Because while I spent weeks believing my husband was cheating, he was secretly trying to save my mother's life. Then I remembered the receipt. The wine. The dinners. Ethan explained quietly. The transplant coordinator often worked overnight at the hotel conference center because of medical partnership events nearby. The dinners were meetings. The note? From the coordinator thanking him for agreeing to continue donor testing despite risks. And suddenly, the guilt hit me like a truck. I thought the worst of him. Followed him. Doubted him. While he carried this enormous secret completely alone. But the hardest part still hadn't come. Because Ethan finally admitted why he hid it from me. And his answer broke my heart. I was scared, he whispered. Of what? That if something went wrong, you'd have to choose between me and your mother. I stared at him crying silently. I didn't want you carrying that fear. His voice shook. So I carried it myself. And honestly, that moment changed something inside me forever. Because love isn't always loud. Sometimes, love looks like exhaustion. Secrets. Sacrifice. Quiet suffering nobody notices. I moved beside him on the kitchen floor and held him while he cried for the first time in our marriage. And suddenly I realized something painful. I'd spent weeks assuming betrayal. Because fear had already poisoned my trust. Not because Ethan stopped loving me. But because somewhere along the way, we stopped communicating honestly. 6 months later, the transplant surgery succeeded. My mother survived. Ethan recovered slowly. And our marriage? Oddly enough, it became stronger after nearly breaking apart. Not because the pain disappeared, but because we finally started telling each other the truth. Even the scary truths. Sometimes I still think about that crumpled receipt. How one tiny piece of paper almost destroyed everything. And honestly, that's the terrifying thing about fear. When you don't know the full story, your mind creates monsters louder than reality. A few nights ago, I found Ethan asleep on the couch again. Exhausted. Still recovering. I covered him with a blanket quietly. And before turning off the light, I looked at the man I almost stopped trusting. The man who secretly risked his own life for my family. Then I whispered something I should have said much sooner. Thank you. Because sometimes, the person you think is betraying you is actually loving you harder than you realize.